Thank you so much for all the input this morning on your breeding vision, your background, pedigree analysis. Through that conversation this morning, we talked a lot about the importance of our bitches. And so this afternoon, we would love to dig into the brood bitch management. We're going to talk a little bit about selection and preparation. We'd love to hear a little bit about the health and prenatal care maybe that you have done in the past, and maybe even some of the post whelping. And then we'll end up moving in and at the end of how do you pick a litter, pick your pick puppy. So to kick us off, let's talk about your foundational bitch. What do you look for when you're looking for that brood bitch to start your breeding program? And I have some pictures that I can share, so whoever jumps in, let me know, and I can share those pictures.
Well, Roxann's still looking, so she should tell us. What can't you find, Roxann?
Talk to us about this.
I want to have a sound bitch with a beautiful expression and a great temperament. The few that I really liked, they're already champions or older, and I guess I should pursue, can I lease that bitch? But I haven't done that, because then I have to find, well, what dog am I going to breed to? Right. And I guess I just haven't got to that point yet. So the ideal bitch to me is one that's already sound, in great condition, has correct expression, and is the type that I'm drawn to. And I think every breeder has to, I think we all breed for, anyway, us four that are on here, I think we all breed for a selected type. Maybe that's why the pedigree Carrie showed had all of our dogs in the background. That's what I look for in a bitch. I want a sound bitch that's in good health and everything that I have in my vision before I would breed to her. In the beginning, it wasn't that way because I didn't know anything, but now that's how it is.
I'm really excited to see this bitch. Can you find her?
It's my virtual bitch.
So
Can we co-breed?
Roxann, is that something you think you can find in a puppy, or do you need to go find it in a young adult?
I would want to find that in an adult that's at least 2 years old.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of really beautiful puppies, but if I'm like looking at other families, which is pretty much what's prevalent now, is all the intermixed families, I think you really don't know what that bitch is going to be until she's at least 2, because they change and they mature, and sometimes different families, their heads develop differently. They take longer to be what you actually probably would not see when they were babies.
Is 12 too old?
Yeah, 12 too old.
Just checking.
I've wanted to do that. And there's some bitches I wish they could have a sex change and be a dog.
Yeah, lots of those. Lots of those.
But we don't do that, so.
Nancy or Linda, do you have thoughts on that?
But you know what? I want a good mother, and I want them to
that's
come
right.
down from good mothers, and have a decent sized litter that, if I've had bitches that are so good that, like, I'm sorry that I didn't have the garbage can in the room so you could put the papers in there for me, and then I've had the others that just, you had to like tube feed those puppies, and I didn't mind doing that. You learn something from that, but it's like, get old, and it's hard to get up out of the box, and and it's really, we're not doing anybody any favors by preserving those things. And it's kind of a paradox, but poor fertility is inherited. But it really is, because you can make them have puppies, and I love the science. I love the the testing we can do to pinpoint our breedings and being able to do frozen semen. But if you're bringing forward some things that don't make that Mother Nature's going to fight you on, you know, you might want to think about that. So a good mother, good milk, easy breeders, you know, those kind of things, that's priceless. You know, it
I
does a
have
lot of
to
the heavy lifting.
So you rely on their mother to make that decision if they're going to be that way?
Yeah, and even their dad's mother. I mean, it carries down from both sides of the family.
Okay.
You know what? It's like, it's so cool, Debbie, that y'all have a Kaysen who's so fertile. I mean, when we have fought fertility in this breed for a long, long time, and now we have this great sire that's, you know, has puppies and has big litters of 8 and 10, and you know, when bitches get shipped in and stuff, and it's just wonderful. It's like, oh, we're going to get spoiled now.
We hope so.
Well, Deb, I know I have some pictures from you. I don't know if we want to jump into any of that, or if you have thoughts on what you look for in a brood bitch or those types of qualities.
Yes, always, of course, exceptional temperament and instincts. You want to have that. We've been very blessed, I have to say. We've had many generations of Rom bitches that are cardinal bitches, really. They produce top winners and are the most wonderful mothers you've ever seen. It's important that they possess the family virtues that you want to carry on with as well, and the depth of the pedigree, of course. We have Honey at the bottom, who's Kaysen's mother, dam of how many champions? I think like 9 or 10. And then her daughter is Kendall, the white, and she's had 13 champions. And this is not from many breedings, by the way. These bitches come in once a year, so, and they all are champions. And then Kelsey, the blue bitch. I have to say that Kelsey, the blue bitch, is the most unbelievably great mother that you've ever seen. I mean, she is so good. She just stays in her whelping box. She gently licks them. She's loaded with milk. She barks for you to let her out so she won't step on them. I mean, this bitch is like, you know, she has telepathy. Okay, she's amazing. I mean, she's just great. And then we're just very lucky to have that. So I think you really have to focus on temperament and all of that, and depth of pedigree. Basically, fertility is the key, of course. You want to start with a bitch, if somebody is looking for a brood bitch, that has normal heat cycles and evidence of ovulation. Sorry, I wrote this down because it's important. Receptiveness to a male, and the ability to carry a litter to full term, and milk production. So a lot of times we target breedings, of course, all of us do, with our progesterone, but I also think we need to remember that progesterone tests are done by a machine in a lab, and if they are not calibrated correctly, they could have variants in them. So we go by progesterone and clinical signs. And when we get bitches here, we go by clinical signs a lot, and many times we'll get a progesterone afterwards to confirm that we got them at the right time. So there's something to be said about the mothers for sure, and their natural instincts. And I don't think we've all had the litters that we've had to tube feed. And I am kind of done with those days. I've spent weeks and years tube feeding puppies and trying to get them to survive. So there's something to be said about good birth weight puppies, and we can get to that regarding nutrition and other things, but good birth weight is important too. So that has to come, then we can talk about diet.
Great.
And
Thank you, Deb.
hand it over to someone else there.
Yeah, Carrie.
I think it's all been said. Obviously they need to be in good condition. So, what's the weight that the bitch is in, her overall condition? If she's had previous litter, how did she recover from that litter? And, you know, that's really important to their overall physiology as well. And then you know, obviously I want to make sure that have a bitch that, again, has those virtues that I want to sustain. And I think that we can work with. I'm not trying to, you know, make a masterpiece out of something that's, you know, just a lump of clay. So who are we starting with? And health testing, you know, are we sure that going forward, we're making the right decisions for going forward? But I like, you know, the conditions. I won't breed a bitch if she's overweight. I'm just setting myself up for failure.
I won't breed one overweight, or usually 7 or 8 years old is my cutoff date. And I've leased a couple bitches. One of them had to have a C-section. I didn't keep her, or I didn't keep anything from her, just because I'm not doing that. I know a lot of people do it, but that's not a road I want to go down. Because I've always had very good moms that have big litters that I didn't have to do a lot of work with. And I guess you get spoiled, but that's how it should be.
What's your thoughts on when you breed a bitch and everything seems right and they don't get pregnant? What do you do the next time they come in season?
I think we've all went down that road too. I've bred bitches that I had a really pretty rough bitch, and I bred her probably 3 different times and she never conceived. And I think sometimes there's just something maybe genetically wrong that you don't know. Mother Nature's like, nope, not doing it. I bred bitches that only had 1 puppy, and it's like, is there something wrong with that bitch, or did I just breed her too late? I mean, you could probably breed them again, but the one that I had that just had 1 puppy, I bred her again her next season, and again, she didn't get pregnant. That was probably the 3rd time I bred her, she had the 1 puppy, and then I bred her again after, and she didn't conceive, so I placed her. She was a really pretty bitch, but she just couldn't conceive a litter.
If you know that the stud dog had a good semen count at the time, you could ultrasound her uterus and ovaries to see if they're normal, and you could put her on some antibiotics prophylactically.
Yeah, you could do that.
If you want to do all that.
Yeah, if you want to do all of that.
I mean, that's what people do. They'll put them on antibiotics, and sometimes the next time they'll conceive. And they'll put them on day 1 of the season. I know Gail K does that. They'll start them on just amoxicillin 500 milligrams twice a day.
So do you have to do that every time you breed a bitch?
I don't know. I think a lot of people do. I don't.
I've never done that.
But I've seen people do that. People have sent me bitches with their antibiotics.
Yeah, and I've had bitches sent back in the day that were on antibiotics, and Hayden wouldn't breed them. We had to AI them. He's like, nope, something wrong with that.
So people do that. I think the reason they do it is they've been told by their fertility vet to do it.
Yeah, and that could be too.
So I don't know. I don't know the reason. I mean, you know, I don't do it to my own bitches, but it's just an option if you really wanted to try to troubleshoot it, is what I'm saying. You can do an ultrasound.
Yeah, you could.
With the fertility vet, Linda.
So tell me about a brood bitch in your own family that it was, you know, your dream brood bitch, and how did she impact and influence your family of dogs? Carrie?
Well, if I go back to more moms, that was certainly happy-go-lucky. And what she was able to imprint on the line. And she was bred various different studs. I didn't go back and pull up those pedigrees. You know, she was bred to Bowen and had beautiful, beautiful puppies there. She was bred to Beneficiary, and obviously Nancy and I both had some benefits on that. Going forward, for myself, the bitch that really kind of got me going forward was the Lucky Strike daughter, Don't Stop Believing, who I bred to Tour de Force. She was, you know, she had great pedigree. She was probably my fault in terms of I brought her home as a puppy, only had one other old dog, never conditioned her well as a puppy. This bitch, until the day she died, preferred to pace. And, you know, she just wasn't a great show dog, but she brought things for me because she carried the line that I was able to breed her a couple different directions that have carried me forward today. And she was a wonderful mother. She loved being a mother. You know, she would just have those litters and they were hers for those 5-6 weeks. You know, you can come in and help, but they're really mine and I got this, Mom. And you couldn't have asked for anything better there.
Nancy.
I'm gonna say this one. Let me see. It was simpatico, and this was an interesting story because all right, her mother was busybody, and we had bred her to a dog I won't say, and she produced dermatomyositis, and it was like I'm just done. I am just done. I'm just not gonna breed her anymore. And then we got thinking about it, and some of the environment at my place where I lived in the woods and there was a lot of ticks and things. And she just said, you know what, everything is not this. This was kind of like the thing when I was the expert on that. And I was just so scared. And she says, you know, let me take her down there and breed her to Wesley because she loved Daphne. And, you know, see if that's different. See if she doesn't produce that. And, you know, anybody else, I would have never let them do it because I wouldn't like put them in that hole. But you know what? This litter, you know, produced simpatico, and she was a great mother. She produced 2 CCFA winners and a Merit Award winner who was like in Fiero's pedigrees, and everything comes down from her. And when she was a puppy, you know, she just had a little light on her when we went down to pick them. And she wasn't Joyce's choice because Joyce is all about the expression, and you could see this picture of her daddy. I mean, how beautiful his eye and muzzle and stuff were, but it was like, oh my gosh, she got that outline that I just think is so pretty. But, you know, and she was really dominant because you can see, if I can go down, well, she won the brood bitch class at the National. And beneficiary looks very much like her, like here. And had another son. Unfortunately, he wasn't fertile. But then she had a daughter who became Anthony's mother. So he was very, very important. And, you know, you just look for one like that forever and ever.
You were mentioning living in the woods and ticks. Was that
Right.
with busybody?
Yeah, that was busybody, right.
Okay, so if you hadn't gone ahead and just said, I'm going to go ahead and do this again, you wouldn't have gotten
Right.
this little girl.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it was like, you know what? I hesitated really hard, you know, because it's like I love Joyce and I didn't want that to happen to her, you know, to have those things. And I'll tell you what, an interesting thing about that, I tried to outcross my way out of that, and every time it didn't fix it. And I started like line breeding back to my own dogs. And it's almost like they had a protective gene that fell off when you went out. And, you know, genetics is a funny thing. And, you know, you don't get to pick how you get out of things. You just have to try stuff. And, you know, thank goodness that Joyce was brave enough to do that, you know, because I wasn't up for it. You know, it was heartbreaking, but thank goodness she did.
Deb, do you have some things to add to this?
Yes, Ryan and Jesse's litter sister Bella, champion Oriolis, I Am Whimsical, best opposite sex 2000, I think it was 16 CC of A. We bred her and bred her and bred her, never got any puppies. Very sad. And one time she did carry them, bred to Kaysen, and lost them at the end. So that's why I want to bring this up. I would not keep a bitch for breeding. That's the little beautiful thing in the middle there, Bella, if they can't carry a litter to full term, because then you're going to have these hormonal problems coming down in that bitch line. So it's sad, but we didn't end up with anything. But sorry, the dogs are barking. Sorry. Anyway, Honey, though, Champion Aurealis, rumor has it, was, I guess you call it, do you call it a sublime rom, Nancy?
Oh, Sublime
What do you call
Sorority.
that?
Yeah.
So sublime sorority. She was one of those, like, she was bred to a dog here, and then Mike bred her to 2 different dogs, and she produced champions in bred to any dog. I find that pretty amazing, really. Now that was lucky, I guess.
Which one was
Pretty
that?
lucky.
Which one was that?
Jason's mother.
Okay. Rumor has it. Honey.
Rumor has it. Honey. She was kind of a meat and potatoes bitch, but she had really good things about her. The one on the bottom right. She had neck, temperament, expression, structure. Really sound bitch. Very sound.
And weren't there like 10 in that frozen litter?
Yeah, even when she was bred to Bowen, Mike had used frozen semen, and she produced 10 puppies. And she lived to be 14, by the way.
Wow, that's great.
She's not with us any longer.
But her legacy lives on. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Deb, since I am already sharing some of your slides, I know you had some thoughts around the prenatal care. Yeah.
Okay, let me look. Well, I know, a lot of us are old-time breeders, so we probably all know this. I know Debbie Holland goes by it. Tell pregnancy. Well, I can kind of tell by the way they act, and I can tell, post-breeding how they will go out of season very quickly. You like them to go out of season very quickly after the last breeding, but not clamp down totally, still remain puffy. And then on day 21, there are clinical signs that we actually go by quite a bit. The gums will turn white around day 21. And we've really noticed this, but the only way you're going to notice this is if you already know what their gums look like normally. You can't just do it on day 21. You have to check it before that, so you know the difference. Is anybody else familiar with that?
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, so I know Debbie Holland does that too. And then some people are good at palpation at 28 to 35 days. I can kind of tell.
I can't do that.
We're kind of old-fashioned over here. I rarely get an ultrasound or an X-ray. On my own bitches, I just kind of know. I can estimate, and then of course I can listen to puppy heartbeats and things. But it's always good to get. You can get an ultrasound at day 30, 35, and then you can get an X-ray only the last week of the pregnancy, about safely. And I think everybody agrees to that, but I'm trying to gear this for people that are, learning here. I don't agree with letting a female, like they're not on bed rest, but they're on semi-bed rest after being bred. And I don't like them jumping on beds, jumping up into cars and all of that. And I've had people roll their eyes and laugh at me about that. But I honestly believe that they need to be somewhat subdued to conceive. And I also think that a bitch that's too thin doesn't conceive real well either. I think they should be robust at breeding time. Not fat, but robust.
In good weight.
Opinion. Yeah, good weight. Like not thin, but robust, like you would want your puppies. Robust is probably the word for it. Well, recently a friend of mine had a litter that had a collie litter that I had not heard of this, that had spina bifida in it. Do you know what that is? Where the spine's underdeveloped neonatally.
Wow.
Have you heard of that?
Yep.
And in humans, in the 70s, they started giving women prenatal vitamins with folate to stop that. And it actually stopped it because it's a congenital defect. So I think now, after hearing about something like that, I've never given prenatal vitamins, but I think it's okay to give a prenatal vitamin with folate as long as it's a good brand. Because the dog, I did a study after that, there's not a lot of folate in dog food. So giving a supplement like that would be good. Not that that's prevalent in collies. I had never seen it. Spina bifida.
Is that a midline defect?
Midline. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just found it, I wanted to share it because it was interesting.
Hang on, we got,
Oh, go ahead.
Nadine can add to that.
I can add to that. One of the things, and it's not just in dogs, but it is in other livestock. If during around the 5th week, it'd be in dogs, around the 5th week of gestation, if they're exposed to certain chemicals, it can cause the spinal bifida. And then
I've heard that too. Yeah.
yes, and then
Go ahead.
it's congenital in that litter, but even if you have one in the litter that does not have that trait, they can pass it on because the chemical has gotten intercalated into the DNA.
Oh,
So
wow.
it inserts between the coding, so then it becomes hereditary. So, but that's just, that's fine.
Interesting.
I mean, it's been studied. So.
Yes,
Sadie.
so it can be caused from chemicals too. Yes, I've heard that. Yeah. Anyway, I just thought I'd bring that up about the folate. I don't think it would hurt to give the folate, is what I'm
I don't
saying.
think so either. I just saying that.
Yeah.
There is no.
Oh, thank you.
You know, I want
course
to
you
double
wanna be-
down on Debbie's. I want to double down on Debbie's kind of bubble wrapping your bitch. And I don't bubble wrap them, but it's like if somebody brings
I
our
know.
stuff, we will like if you take that bitch to a show or something like that, we're just not going to give you a return. You know, if you can't stay home from a show for like 6 weeks and protect that bitch till you know she's pregnant, why would you invest all of that, and not make that the priority,
Yeah.
And it's not very long. I
Yeah,
mean,
we
a
try
whole
not,
lot-
we don't show ours either. We don't show our
Yeah.
bitches when they're in whelp. It's just too much out there, especially
Right.
at the shows. And I agree with you.
I think they still
There's a lot
need good,
invested in that. Yeah.
they still need good exercise during pregnancy, but I'm
Yeah.
very cautious about running with others until I know implementation has happened. So, it's a couple weeks of not, like you said, not jumping up and down off furniture, not being bounced out in the yard. Once those puppies are implanted, then, usually the exercise resumes a little bit more normal. Again, not roughhouse play
Right.
out in the yard with all the pack, but they do need the exercise.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's kind of
That's
what
what
I
we
do
do,
too.
We do that too. And we let them with like a pretty mellow dog to run with, but they still can run.
Yeah, they're just
When-
mine are just in a smaller yard where they're just not like out running like with everybody,
Yeah, exactly.
but they're still out running around and getting some exercise and
Fresh air.
and fresh air. And I don't like treat them much different, I guess, other than I separate them into a smaller yard to run around and play. I don't supplement until I feed them a regular maintenance diet until probably the 4th to 5th week, and then I'll switch them over to a higher protein diet. And I really don't do a lot of supplementing with like any vitamins or any of those things. I know other people do that. Once they whelp puppies, I add like cottage cheese and yogurt and pumpkin and different things to their diet when they're nursing, because I want to make sure they're producing enough milk to feed their litter. I'm old school. I guess that's just how I do it.
I don't
That's
think
how I've done
carrying
it
a
too,
litter.
Roxann.
Yeah, I don't think carrying a litter is as stressful on them. I don't start increasing their food or anything till maybe like week 7 or something. But when they're lactating, that's a whole different thing.
It is. And they need to have enough nutrition and protein to produce milk.
Yeah, and you know what? They do well. I want a dog that does well on commercial dog food. And
Yeah, same.
Pet, parasite control is like the biggest thing you can do. You know, have them not have worms and things. I mean, those are the things that take them down. They should do well on just regular
Well,
good
that
dog
should
food.
be a given.
Right? I know.
I've got a question for you. Do you continue to give them heartworm medicine once they've been bred?
I do. You have to.
I do. I
Yeah,
do.
You in the South.
We don't.
We don't have heartworm here, so we don't. We don't.
Lucky
But
you.
I'm gonna knock
Yeah.
on wood on that because it's gotten hotter here, so I don't know. Maybe we better investigate that. So far, the vets don't recommend it in this area, but that's a good question because
Yeah.
I wouldn't know the answer to that.
I don't vaccinate.
Right.
If I'm going to be breeding a bitch, she better already be up to date on her vaccinations.
All right.
I
What
was gonna
about,
say the same thing. Yep.
what about flea and tick?
I don't have that problem. I actually put brewer's yeast in all of my dog's food. I've not had fleas and ticks for years since I did that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
We use NexGuard, and I'll tell you what, it's like a minesweeper. You could almost do half of the dogs, and whatever that is, I've been here 20 years and never had a flea, and I'll see ticks like the early March, and you can treat the dogs, and you don't have to do it every month. I don't have to do it. Maybe I'll have to do it again in October, but you know, I've even given it to lactating bitches, and it's been safe. It's not tested, but parasites are terrible. You know, they're like worse than any prevention.
But you're in a more wooded area too, where I think you
Right.
have to worry more about ticks and stuff. I'm in hot
Yeah.
Kansas where
Right. Yeah.
we get ticks once in a while if we have a lot of rain, but
Yeah.
Dell keeps all of the property mowed, and I think that really cuts
Oh, yeah.
down on
Yep.
on that as well.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
but I do see ticks every once in a while, but fleas, no, haven't ever had a problem with fleas.
And you have a lot of visitors. People bring dogs here all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
People aren't allowed to bring dogs to my house and bring them in my yard. If I have a visitor, I have a visitor yard. Like when we would
Really?
have club meetings, people weren't allowed to bring their dogs to my house unless they went in the visitor yard. They weren't allowed to go in the yard where my dogs are at.
See, we have the uninvited kinds like foxes and
Dude,
coyotes.
Oh, well, I'm sure I have that too.
Rabbits and those
I don't know
kind of
about
things.
foxes. I know we have a lot of rabbits, and I'm sure we have other animals that probably come into the yards that I don't know about. But
Yes.
as far as
Yeah.
people bringing their dogs to my house, unless it was somebody I knew. If it was somebody I knew and their dogs I knew didn't have anything, I would let them in my yard. But sometimes club members were coming, and it's questionable.
Right.
Now I want to move into a little bit of storytelling around the whelping experiences. Curious if you have anything that sticks out in your mind as a good whelping story. It could be something, you know, the days leading up to the actual whelping or during the whelping. It could be a scary one that you learned some things, or maybe a really positive experience. What advice would you like to share from those stories?
My very first litter, I was told they don't whelp until their 63rd day.
Mm.
My bitch had her puppies on her 58th day outside because I didn't even know that she was having them. And my son came in and he's like, Legs is having puppies. I'm like, what? And so we go out and get all the puppies and bring them in. And, we didn't know, it's like, I didn't expect her to have the puppies till her 63rd day. So she was outside, just being a dog.
Yep.
So
That sounds like a pretty good brood bitch there.
she'd already whelped all the puppies, cleaned them off, and they were nursing. I guess that's why I'm spoiled, because all of my bitches have pretty much been that way.
Carrie?
Well, my very first litter, I was a teenager, and my parents went to a dog show and said, don't worry, she won't have him for a couple more days. And about an hour and a half after they left, she went into labor. So, trial by fire, I delivered a litter of puppies.
How old were you?
I don't know, I was a teenager, I was in high school,
Teenager?
but
Okay.
yeah, I don't remember exactly. Old enough to be left home alone with the dogs, I guess. And my brother and sister weren't there anymore. So, I did call a friend and she got there like when the last puppy was born. So luckily. You know, I don't know. I think I've been really, really lucky, even to the point of I've had several singletons who've gone into labor just as they should have, delivered their singleton puppies, didn't have issues. I just consider myself very lucky with that because I hear all the horror stories of you have a singleton that's not going to go into labor, and I really just like have not had issues with that. I'm really lucky. I've had really good experiences overall. Usually my bigger problem is, you know, when I breed two of them at the same time and you have two whelping boxes set up very close to each other.
Oh, we've all done that.
Yeah, well, they bring each other in, and I may be doing that in a couple months.
And it's not, you know, I haven't had that many whelping adventures. I'll tell you what I've kind of like learned from watching other people, like not to panic. You know, if everything's going well and they're not pushing and in stress, you know, that 2 hour window that they're supposed to have a puppy every 2 hours, that's not necessarily true unless they're really training and pushing. And I've had plenty of C-sections and stuff, but I think some of them probably wouldn't have been necessary, you know, because you have these rules, and you know
They don't read the book.
Never apply to things. You know, the weirdest one I ever had was this bitch had she was pregnant with 5 puppies, and she had one puppy, and she could not deliver this puppy, and it's like its head and his front leg was hanging out, and she just pushed and pushed and pushed it like good and hard so she could have it, and finally just gave up and took her to the vet, and they could not figure it out. And it turned out she had a septum in her vagina, so she had like the leg on one side of it and her head on the other, and that just wasn't ever going to happen, you know. And when we bred her, we didn't know that. I mean, I think we did an AI, so you would not have ever seen that there, but it was like really, it was strange. And I don't know how she delivered the first puppy that way, but then she had the rest of the litter, you know, pretty easy once they, you know, cut that. But it was like, what? And like the vet was like, what the hell?
We had a Hayden daughter that we bought when we found out the kennel that had her was selling all of their collies, and her name was Star. She was a beautiful bitch. So we drove to Iowa and picked her up and brought her back. And her first litter, don't remember who I bred her to. She was a great mom, didn't have any problems. Her second litter, she was like on the second or third puppy, and just like what you were doing, Nancy, she couldn't push this puppy out. I could see its head. I couldn't pull it. I just kept trying to get this puppy out, and it sucked back up in there. So I called my vet and took her in, and he was able to get the puppy delivered, sent me back home. Next puppy, same thing. And these weren't like big puppies, but for some reason she just couldn't push it out. So took her back to the vet, and he's like, you're just going to stay here till you deliver the rest of the litter. Did an x-ray to see how many we had left. I think she had 4 more puppies to deliver. And so he just put me in an office, gave her some oxytocin, and he's like, I'll come back in 30 minutes and we'll check her if she hasn't done anything. So he comes back in because she hadn't done anything. She hadn't even pushed her or anything. And I'm sitting, he raises her up, blood just gushes out. And so he just picks her up and he's like, follow me. We went to the surgery room, and he yells at the other 2 vets that are there, and they're all in there, and they've already cut her open and stuff. Because he's like, I don't know where the blood's coming from, you know, and they finally found the blood coming from her uterus. Her uterine artery had ruptured.
Whoa.
And he's like, I really don't know that the oxytocin did that. He's like, because I only gave her 1 shot. He's like, I don't know if that's why she wasn't able to push the puppies out. He had no idea what, you know, from after that, I was afraid to ever use oxytocin though. But all the puppies survived.
Wow.
And she came home and
Yeah, you have to be really careful with oxytocin.
I never bred her again after that. I'm like, I'm not doing this again, you know, but there was never a reason why she wasn't able to whelp that second litter like she did the first litter. So that was probably my biggest nightmare litter.
Oxytocin, that's one of the side effects of oxytocin. And I know a lot of
I
breeders are
know.
really
I typically
overzealous
never used it
about
except for
giving
after.
oxytocin. It can
Huh?
rupture it can rupture your uterus.
It didn't
It can
rupture her
rupture.
uterus. It was the uterine artery.
No, but it can happen. It can happen.
Yeah.
The same thing. I mean, yeah, it's a very dangerous drug to use if you don't know what you're doing, and you need to give half of a dose to a collie. I'm just saying. I just,
Well.
it's very scary. We've only had one in 50 years, and
Whoa.
I don't know how. Yeah, I'm not kidding. I don't know, and they killed all the puppies, so that's why I won't go. You know.
Oh no.
So no, they didn't go well, and so I always find a way to get them out. I don't know how, but there's been some hairy situations where you've had to turn the mothers upside down and do all these maneuvers, and and if you ever have seen a water baby, have you ever seen that?
A what?
A water baby?
No.
Those little
water
walrus
baby.
things?
What is that?
It's like an undeveloped fetus with a giant balloon of water in the placenta, and it can't come out.
Oh no. I've had them stillborn, but
smooth.
I've never had that.
It's like the size of 3 puppies. It's the size of 3 puppies, literally. And I got that out of a smooth bitch once by just maneuvering it. And I used KY jelly, by the way, and I didn't pull. But I got it out. Okay. Another horror story. We had a bitch that we'd leased. Well, we didn't lease, but they asked us to whelp the litter, and I had never seen preeclampsia in a dog. Have you ever seen it?
Mm-mm.
Okay, well, you won't forget it. It's when they have so many puppies that it depletes the calcium level in the mother at the end of the pregnancy. They don't have enough calcium. It's especially a bitch that doesn't eat well. It can happen. So all of a sudden I saw this bitch stumbling around. That was a key sign that something was wrong. I am not an OB nurse. I'm an ICU nurse, but for some reason it clicked in my brain that it was a low calcium level. So I told Lauren. Lauren was home. I mean, it was scary. She looked like she was like her heart was gonna stop. I mean, it was that bad. And so, but she was able to drink a bowl of goat's milk because I had goat's milk right there. So I gave her the goat's milk as quick as I could. We put her in the back of the truck and rushed to the emergency. And by the time she got there, she started coming around. But that's like a near death type thing. It was so scary.
Yeah.
It was.
I've heard about it, but I haven't had that
Well,
happen.
we thought we were going to lose the mother in the car. I mean, it was that bad because it can affect your heart rate. Your heart rate, you can go bradycardia. So that was a frightening experience.
So Deb, in the future, you were talking about that being a calcium deficiency. Do you what does that typically look like after they've had a litter? Do you give calcium regularly, or what's that look like?
No. I think in this particular case, the bitch had a big litter, like 10, and she was not a great eater. She wasn't one of our bitches, but she wasn't a great eater. And I think that the fact that she lost her appetite at the end and had such big puppies draining her system that it depleted her calcium. So there was a reason. She did get calcium after that. I mean, I gave her the goat's milk. Luckily, she drank it because it saved her life. Yeah. But then we just gave Tums after that because Tums are calcium gluconate or carbonate. I can't remember. Tums are a good, fast way of absorbing calcium.
You teed this up
without
right
giving
into our next section about like the post-whelping care, nutrition, some of that emotional management as well with our bitches. Nancy, you might have mentioned it that maybe carrying the litter isn't near as stressful as the post care. So would you like to expand, Nancy, on some of your post whelping care?
You do have such an investment. Like I don't want to do a lot of stuff, but once they're there, I'm invested in them. So they kind of sleep in my bedroom till their eyes open, and I weigh them twice a day. And if they're not gaining, if they don't gain a little bit in half a day, I'll supplement them. And, you know, a lot of my bitches are not fast for the milk to come in. So I'll supplement that with domperidone or Reglan. But both of those are like MDR1 sensitive medication. So you have to kind of be careful because like my last litter, my bitch had a reaction to the domperidone. And I think it's really good to stimulate milk flow, but, you know, she kind of went into a, you know, she fainted, and it took her a while. It just kind of had to work its way through their system. So, and we'd done that in her litter before, and she was fine. So you just don't know when those things are going to happen. But you know, I'll monitor them. I want to make sure they're gaining weight and they're not restless, they're the right temperature. But you know, I don't put them on a heating pad. They're with their mother. The floor's well insulated, and I want them to cuddle up to her. So I don't do a lot of intervention, but I want to know when I should.
Mhm. Carrie?
I think I'm pretty old school because I do what my mom did with a couple little things maybe that I'll try that other people say, oh, you must do this. And I don't have to do it, but so, you know, for me, the biggest thing is, you know, monitoring, especially those first 48 hours till that milk really drops in. And I'm making sure that, you know, the puppies are all good and warm and she's attentive to them. Getting as much liquid into her, getting her eating again, like Roxann, it might be cottage cheese, yogurt, ice cream, whatever they'll, you know, accept until I can get through some, you know, if it's some watered down low sodium chicken noodle soup, because they'll lap that up even when they're not drinking enough water. Whatever to get them going and keep building. I have just this past year, for the first time, I used Oxy Mama on a couple of the bigger litters, and I really do think it helped the bitches in those first couple weeks. I didn't leave them on it for a long time, but I did think it gave them a little boost, and those puppies were very robust.
Did you give that Oxy Mama prior to her?
Oxy Mama was post. Oxy Mate is before. I didn't get it till late. The Oxy Mama came to me because somebody else had a litter and she said, oh, try this. I have some left over. And that's when I used it on the first bitch. And I went, you know what? I might try it on the next one because I wanted to really see if it made a difference. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. Both those bitches hadn't had litters before, so I didn't have anything to judge by, but those puppies did really, really well. And, you know, the bitches had no issues. So, you know, it didn't see any harm. I think I may continue to do that. But, you know, like Nancy said, I don't know that I weigh mine when they're born. I'm not really good about weighing regularly afterwards because I pick them up all the time. I can feel them and how they react when I pick them up and, you know, how do they really feel? And again, old school. My mom never weighed a puppy, I don't think, in her life. But she knew the ones that needed extra and the ones that were fine. So I'll supplement. I love to bottle feed even if they don't need it, just because I like to do the attachment in those first few days. That's my time with them. So,
we talked a little about puppy weight. What do you think is a nice puppy weight?
I don't weigh enough to tell you what that is. It feels like enough to
they feel they're not all scrawny.
No. You know, Debbie
12 ounces or bigger.
Yeah,
I don't weigh puppies either. I feel them.
You know what? I keep a diary like 2 or 3 times a day.
Juliana wants to weigh them all the time. I just
Right.
go by hand weight, like your mom did. But I mean, I use Oxy Mama too. It's good. It works good if they need it.
I've never even heard of that. I didn't even know what that was.
Well, it has fenugreek in it. Fenugreek is an old remedy for women to have, you know, human women to have their milk production increased.
Was it made for? It's made especially for dogs, or okay. I guess I never heard of that. So,
but is it Revival? I can't remember.
Revival.
Yep. Revival makes it, and it's specifically for dogs, and it has the right dosage of fenugreek and some other things in it. So
and I had used fenugreek before that.
Oh, that's interesting. I'll have to check into that.
So that's a good one.
You know, I keep a diary, and it's and actually I like to keep a diary of, you know, what I'm observing on them, and I video them every 2 or 3 days, and because I'm just not smart enough to remember everything, and it's really interesting, you know, what little things, you know, you might see that early. And you know, I'm not like these people that can pick their puppies at birth. It's like, well, yeah, you're really good if you can do that, but. It is interesting what they will show you. It's like, you know, Debbie Holland says never discount your little ones. And, you know, when somebody says, well, that, you know, I'm not going to keep those little ones because it's not robust. But it's like, you know what, why would you punish that puppy? Not punish it, but dismiss it because it was so unlucky that it maybe implanted on like a less blood rich place, you know, in the uterus. I mean, it still has the same genetics that it would have and everything. It just got a slower start. You know, so, you know, they all matter.
Good.
I have a spreadsheet that I made just to keep track of when the puppies are born and whether a boy or a girl, you know, rough or smooth, color, and I would make notes, and I would always put in that in the bitch's file. So the next time I bred her, I would pull out the notes from the time before that she'd had a litter. So
yeah,
I always thought that was interesting, and I always did that.
Yeah, I took your spreadsheet and I gave it to everybody here that's in person. So thank you, Roxann.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Nancy?
I can send that to anybody that wants it. It's just an Excel spreadsheet. It's pretty easy to make.
Sorry, Nancy, I cut you off
Send me
there.
one, Roxann.
No, that's it.
I'll
That's,
take one.
Okay.
Send it, Roxann.
Okay. I don't know how to do it from here.
I'll take one. I'll always take all the information I can
Sure,
get.
send it to everybody.
We want it. We want it.
All right.
So,
The pick of the litter. Deb, did you have some things you want to talk about there? It's the evaluation process, early
Well,
structure. What's your philosophy?
Just, I mean, I look at 3 days basically, but you know, I don't go by, that's not hard and fast, but I can look at 3 days. I look at 3 days and 3 weeks at their heads and their, you know, their angulation and all those little things. But I think you really, it's hard because we try not to keep big numbers. We don't want to have big numbers in our, we want to keep the kennel low, we don't want, I think a lot of people end up keeping too many unneeded dogs. It's really hard because I think when you're picking puppies, you have to be really ruthless, basically ruthless, to sort through them and keep what you intended for that, from that breeding. You really have to keep what you intended. And I see a lot of people have litters and they send me pictures, and I always point out one that I say, oh, what about that one? And for some reason, I see a lot of people miss the prettiest puppy in their litter, and I don't know why. So the selection process is very important when picking puppies.
Yep.
Absolutely.
You have to.
Joyce telling me Joyce is like selection.
It's hard, yeah. Selection. It's like, and you may like one other puppy for one reason or another, but you have to stick to the reason why you did your breeding and what you want.
Yeah, I agree to that. Yeah.
You have to like remember, but this is what I'm looking for. It's hard.
Yeah, that's what you wanted to improve, and sometimes that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and it's hard. So it doesn't happen if it's not a great litter, and it's hard to make it happen even if they all look alike too, because then there's very small differences, and that can be hard too. So that's all I would have to say about that. I had a breeder once, his name is Tom Cohen, and he said, you know, people tell me things over the years, you know, always keep the best puppy in the litter, no matter what sex or color.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think people miss that too. We try, that's why we end up with a lot of boys. So anyway, that's all I had to say. Yeah.
That's how I ended up with a lot of smooths. My smooths were always better than my roughs. All of my smooths are rough factored, and I even bred a smooth to a smooth, and we still had roughs in the litter. But for some reason, the smooths were always better, and so that's what I get.
Yeah.
I started with roughs.
We have two smooths, and I love my two smooths. They're great. Yeah.
Roxann, what else would you add about picking a pick of the litter? What's your
Well,
thought?
my little piece of paper that I start with, I write on the back of it a lot of notes about puppies while they're growing up. And I always find it interesting the ones that I like when they're like, first born within that first week or two. And when their eyes open, I make little notes about different things that I like about, them, because you can see their structure and stuff too, but that doesn't always mean that's what they're going to be when they grow up, because I've seen that happen too. And then as they're growing up, I just like to watch them out in the big yard, just running and playing, and how they interact with each other and how they stop and use themselves. And I mean, they just do that naturally. So they the ones that are going to be better usually do stand out in that way, even at a young age. And so that's kind of how we decide who to keep from a litter, that and their expression and everything else that goes into it. But I tend to usually pick the puppies that kind of use themselves. I don't know how else to put that. They stand out. They just stand out. You notice them every time they're out there running and playing with the whole litter. You just notice them. And so I usually will keep maybe 2 or 3 from a litter, but eventually I'll just keep one, because that's the one that had what I wanted from that litter.
Can you
Whether it's
teach
rough,
leading up
smooth, doesn't matter the color or the sex.
Do you imagine them as adults?
I do. Especially when they're around 9 to 12 weeks, I try to imagine what would they look like as an adult.
We had this conversation, right, Nancy?
Ignore them at that point.
I do, and I go back to my little piece of paper as they get older, and it's like sometimes I'm spot on and sometimes I'm not, And I've bought puppies that were beautiful puppies, but they never matured to be what I might, to live up to my expectations.
Any of you
Huh?
We have a
I have a question, and all of you can answer it, but say you pick out your puppy at 9 to 12 weeks, and you have a slow maturing family. And I've seen the pictures you've put up where you have a, 10-month puppy and then a 2.5-year-old, and the maturity has just made the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you know to keep that puppy while it's not at its finest?
I think it depends on the family, because mine never really changed. The ones I kept from my family really didn't change a lot as far as their heads and things as they grew. But from other families, I felt like I had to wait longer to see that or to have that. But as far as their cleanness of head, if they were clean as puppies, any in my family, I didn't have them going off wider. Now, when I bred into other families, sometimes I would see that. And I guess that's why I kind of bred into my family more than I should have. And then I lost everything because they all got too old and I couldn't breed them anymore.
Yeah, I
I don't
think
know if that answered your question or not.
I think it does go in lines. I can usually pretty much tell in that 10 to 12 weeks what I see. And Nancy and I just had this conversation on a litter of mine recently. Do I see them as adults when I look at them at that age? And yes, I think the structure that I see there and the outline that I see there is what I'm hoping to see as an adult. And I am picturing them in that venue. For me, for puppies, I don't really, I look at them every day. I'm picking them up every day, but until eyes open and I can really see, a little bit more about where those eyes fall into that head and they start looking back at me, I'm not really picking puppies. There might be something that I kind of go, oh, that looks kind of cute, but it's, there's so much that goes into it. I will say that, I love to look them I want to see them just running out in the yard, how they interact. And a lot of times my pick puppy picks me.
Gotcha.
It's the one that sits back and looks at me. Maybe not necessarily the one that's right up at the fence and, oh, mom's here, great. It's the one who's kind of the thinker. Like,
Yeah, taking it all in.
Yeah. I'm gonna take this in, and I want you to just kind of look at me, and they definitely develop into the dog that continues to kind of want to go, hey, look at me.
Mhm.
So I kind of like that as I see it. But my biggest decisions don't come until after eye checks, and they're that 10 to 12 weeks. And I've sometimes I had a litter. I had 3 sable males, and I liked things about all 3 of them. All 3 of them finished. But that was a litter I had to go back and say, what did I do the breeding for? I kept the one that gave me, I wanted improvement in muzzle. I wanted more of an outline on the dog. And, so that was the male that I kept. The other 2 were beautiful. And it took me longer. I just had to tell the people that were getting puppies going, you just have to wait. I haven't made my decision yet. And I did the breeding for me. So, ultimately, I think I made right for everybody. So.
Well, okay, so like my situation's a little different. I mean, y'all all have partners, right? Or you grew up like in the sport, and you kind of raise your own team, Debbie. It's like, but I have all my friends that it's almost better because I got to pick them, right? Like, Carrie and I are sharing a puppy right now, and it's going to be really rich. And I think in the Midwest there was a time when a lot of people, and this was like even your mom, Carrie, it was almost like a team with the Twin Creeks dogs, but everybody kind of had their own vision. Rita was different. The Faybecks were a little bit different, and they all kind of used the same family, and I think they appreciated each other's vision. And that was a time when they were really breeding some beautiful collies, and they were, I like to see the thought that it's a team sport, that we're all going to the same thing. And, like I think Debbie said this earlier, we're talking about the standard and understanding it. I would love to see, I mean, I love the individuality, but I want to see a little more consensus on what those words mean. When somebody says this expression is beautiful, and I go like, are you kidding? But
I agree with you, Nancy. I think that we need to do I think we need to do interpretation of this standard.
Right. I think
maybe we'll all get together again and we'll do interpretation of the standard, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions. Now, I did do a seminar for all breed judges at one point, but it was about 4 years ago. And I have a PowerPoint presentation on it that I would have to update some of the photos, but I think the all breed judges got it at the end about expression and hit.
Right.
But even like I see people on Facebook, and everything is beautiful.
Oh, I know. I'll tell you what, when there was,
like beautiful.
Right. Oh yeah, light, love, whatever. But I remember when
I don't know.
Like John, and it was John and Marcia and Judy and Tom. They did the last, like before Judges Ed, when they were doing Judges Ed for a while. And I think before that was Joan and Jenny and Bobby Roos and Barbara Schwartz and stuff. I could tell which judges went to which seminar. When they were like new, like the all breed judges, when they were new judging collies or something like that, you could tell that they had been to like Bobby's seminar or John's seminar, because it was like the ones that had paid attention. It's like, oh, you must have been there. And it was interesting because you could tell that they had gotten the message,
Right.
Well, we were going to do that session, but we didn't have a whole week to do it. So I think we will tackle that different parts of the standard. And maybe at a time when we have more time to put in some pictures that we can reference to, and be really nice to do it in person with some dogs, but that's getting tougher to do. So yeah, I think that standard is a big issue.
Yeah, I think it is too. I think until it was that way for me until I was shown and had to fill it. I knew what I liked when I looked at it, but I didn't know what it was supposed to be or anything. I remember my first Sunnybank. Again, I went with Marcia because she invited me to come up and go to Sunnybank. And that was back when they had quite a few people bring puppies. It was a pretty big all-day thing. And I was walking around by myself just looking at puppies in X pens, and I went back over to her and I said, "Oh, I found the cutest puppy." She's like, "Cute? What do you mean by cute?" She's like, "Show me the puppy." And so I take her back over there and she just almost rolls her eyes at me and she's like, "Come with me." And so she walked around and showed me different puppies and, different families, and this is back when I was still just kind of figuring things out. And she's like, "Let's go back and look at your puppy." And so we went back and looked at my puppy. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, it's not so cute anymore. Not even pretty."
Roxann, do you feel like you have learned to evaluate puppies differently then? Like, what was that? Can you put it into words for someone like myself?
It was the eye placement, the expression, how they look at you. She would pick them up and almost not pick them up, but she would reach over in the X pen and kind of cradle their head in her hand, and she would push their ears up if they weren't up. And she'd like, "Look at this, feel this." And even the puppies at that age already started to develop the rounder muzzle that you want to see. And the eye was already where, the eye's where it's supposed to be because everything else is right. So even as 9 and 12-week puppies, which were a lot of them that we went and looked at when we were at Sunnybank, you could see it, and I didn't see it until she made me feel it and really look at it and explain to why did I like that cute puppy. I don't know, it was a collie puppy, it was cute.
Like, cute is not in our standard.
No, but cute is not in the standard. No, she didn't like that word at all.
That's a good point, though, that we need to have, when we do interpretation of the standard, that you have to have physical dogs there.
You do, that do have
really
those virtues.
We did have physical dogs there. We had adults. We had like several adults.
Yeah, but I don't care if it's an adult or a puppy. If the eye is correct and
would be good. Yeah, a puppy would be good.
Mm-hmm.
Having a puppy, having different ages.
I think it's just being able to have the opportunity to feel what is correct and what the standard is saying, because it is all interpretation too. But I don't think if you ever see it or feel it that you understand it the same way as physically seeing it and feeling it. It's just pictures don't do that for you. The description doesn't do that for a lot of people.
All right, doing a little time check here. As we get closer to wrapping up our afternoon, I would like to spend a little bit of time talking about the enrichment activities that you have done with your puppies. When you talk about developing them, conditioning them, and those types of things. So there any enrichment activities or socialization practices that you have felt have made a big difference when it comes to developing puppies? Nancy, I think I've seen some fun little playground sets at your place. Pictures.
I made one of those little jungle gyms one time and the litter just tore it up. And but I don't do much. There's a lot of dogs here and I have a big field to run in and stuff. But I want to breed for those qualities. I just want them to be that way. And it's like I don't want to manipulate too much. I don't want to train them or turn them into robots. I mean, I think that's that relationship that you build with a dog where they trust that whatever you have in mind for them is is going to come out like really good. And I want them to have a temperament that's receptive to that. And it's a lot less work. And I tell you what, I have taken, the nutcases and the autistic ones and the whatever, it cured me. Okay. I mean, because you can breed for that kind of temperament. I mean, I can take dogs I took a puppy down to Orlando. Actually, I took two of them. Took them to Orlando to the Eukanuba, their first time at a show, and they both went out and won like 3 majors in the first weekend because they knew that they could trust me that they were not going to be unsafe. They didn't need, and you know what? I try to make myself the most interesting thing in their life. And if you do that, then, you don't have so much competition. So they come that way. I want them to come that way. And if they don't, I'm not interested in them.
I think that goes back to temperament too.
Right.
If they have correct temperament, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's
And I
important.
love my big dogs to teach my young
Yeah.
puppies, nothing better
Oh,
than
yeah.
running them all together. And they learn manners, they learn what the routine is, let the canines teach the canines. And then they understand that I'm there for other things. I'm there for, the food and the extra attention. I bring special things to them that their canine partners can't.
Yeah, they have to bond with people, really, like Nancy's saying, they have to trust people too. So I think exposure to, we have the play sets and all that, and they play with those, but they really have to be around, I think, a lot of people when they're young to bond with humans, of different people, workers, gardeners, son-in-laws,
Children.
I think and children, yeah, kids, because a lot of dogs are scared of kids if they're not around them. So I just think they need to be exposed to that, but they have to have the temperament to begin with, really. So, because you can take litter mates and they can act completely different,
Right.
raised the same. So,
Oh, yeah.
but those are the things you can do to try to help, I
Any other
guess.
questions? Anybody have questions before we wrap it up?
I'll tell you what, and this is kind of like off subject, but taking care of ears.
Oh, yes.
Your church.
It's a religion.
Your church.
It's a religion.
It is a religion, and I've seen so many like really good dogs. I mean, it's almost, I mean, they might as well be at shows. They might as well be, minorchids if they're prick-eared, or it's almost a disqualifying fault if you want to show dogs, and it's something that you just have to invest in. And I don't think there's anything unpure about taking care of ears, because like if they're not set right and shaped right and on the head right, you could take them till you're blue in the face and it's not going to make any difference. And they can just sleep on them wrong one night and it'll go up. And that's a waste of a good dog if you don't monitor and keep that going. I mean, you don't have to do it very long, and just learn how to do it and learn how to make the tape stick and whatever it takes, because like you just don't want to ruin a good show dog. I mean, if you just want to breed them, that's one thing, but if you want to show them, they have to have really good ears. And,
They do.
And
You have to breed for that. That has to be another thing you're breeding for.
Yep. Good ear leather.
yeah. Ears are so much better now than they used to be. Oh my God, I
Yeah.
remember. Like, they were all over the place. But I'll tell you, I think who changed a lot of that was Brandon. He had those small ears. They were set high on his head and they were tipped nice. And, he fixed, ears for me.
I
So
would tape ears when they're puppies, but usually by the time they were 3 or 4 months old, I didn't have to really tape them much anymore.
Right.
I guess I was lucky and had pretty ears, so I've had my litters that didn't, and it's like, yeah, I'm not keeping you. I'm not taping your ears the rest of your life.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
3 or 4 months at the most.
Yeah.
And they're pretty much set.
Yeah.
You might have to tape one over because it doesn't break quite as much as the other one if you're going to be showing them. But for the most part, they still tip forward on their own. but I still think you have to religiously, as they're coming up on their head. I don't think you should tape them until they're coming up on their head, but
Right.
I think then you do need to keep them taped just so that you're trained. It's just like people wearing braces on their teeth so they have straight teeth, because you
Right.
want the ears to be set in a certain way.
It's so much easier to show a dog when you don't have to think about the ears. You don't have to.
It is.
You don't
It
have to
is.
draw that. I
It's
mean,
frustrating when you have to constantly fix an ear,
right. Like Jane's gone, so I don't know who we're going to get
and the
lead.
dogs hate it.
Right. Right. And it's like, I don't even want to have lead in my box. I would rather, I hate seeing those leaded ears. You can be comfortable showing your dog when you're not self-conscious about.
It's
making these-
another virtue to breed for.
Yep.
Selection.
Expression is not the size. It is all of it. It's ears, it's head shape.
It's everything. It's everything that makes a collie a collie.
Well, with ears,
Yes, it affects everything.
ears are one of the things you can control.
Right.
Mm,
Somewhat.
I mean,
To a point.
to a point. I mean, you can
to a
buy,
point, yes. If you don't have a dog that has the right leather, I don't care how much you tape it, it's never going to stay over.
Right.
right, but if you make the right selection and you are
Yes.
religious about it, you can,
Yes.
you can make sure that the ears are tipped well, or you can ignore it and pay for it later.
Right, but that's just part of showing. If you're going to have a dog and you're going to show it, it's going to have to be conditioned and groomed, and you
Yep.
can't just like give it a bath and take it to the show. It's going to blow coat just because you haven't kept it bathed and brushed.
Oh,
And if
well,
you don't
that's-
keep the ears taped, the ears aren't going to be pretty either.
Grooming's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, that's a whole nother subject. Yes.
Closing us out here in puppy talk. This was a sweet picture that Deb sent me,
Oh.
and I just had to share. This
Yeah,
is
very cute.
Haley.
Oh,
It's just her ears are taped, so I thought maybe we'd show it. Yeah, her ears she always had pretty good ears, but I think they're taped there. Yeah.
Yeah, they
And I
look like
still
they
use
are.
And I still use the yarn, but I just always loved her as
We
a
do
puppy.
too.
And
I do the yarn too.
I like it. I can get them closer together. And she's just a really fun dog. I just love her. She's grown up now,
Beautiful.
but
So ladies, any final words of wisdom you want to impart on us?
I think we've seen it today. There is definitely a passion about this that is necessary to endure, whether it's, some of the heartaches in breeding, or that puppy that, you had so much hope for that for some reason or another, goes to the left. What keeps us going, and I said from the very beginning, a lot of what keeps me going is having conversations like this. Just, we're not in this alone, whether we have a partner that we're working with, or we just, phone a friend and kind of go, okay, I think I hit a wall. Did I hit a wall? Maybe not. It was, just a little barricade. I can get over this one. And you just have to keep delving in and keep going. If that passion is there, you're going to find a way to do it. And they said all of us have got hitting those roadblocks, and you kind of had to start over, but you just kind of move on and go, okay. And when that next pretty litter comes on, you're like energized again and go, oh, I think I can do something.
Yeah.
Like this. Yeah. Roxann's going to get it.
I am. I'll get there. I'll get there.
Roxann?
you said that well, Carrie. And we all have this passion, and when we see each other at shows, we're all busy. So I think it's important that I think it's fun that we got together and did this. I think
I
it's
do
great.
too.
And I think we should do more. We should do more of it.
Yeah, I agree. We should do more of this where it used to be you did this after a show, or everybody went to someone's house and we all sit around and talked until late into the night, and we just sit and talked about dogs and why you bred this and why you did that. And it was a great learning experience, and people don't do that anymore. They show their dog and pack up and leave sometimes before the show's even over.
Yeah. Very true.
Well, thank you. Thank you to the club for having us here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it and think you're doing a great thing. So
Yeah, we think this is it's a great learning thing.
Thank you all. We'll come up with another one for you.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you,
Great
ladies.
job. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.